Please go ahead, sir. We are live.
Okay, thank you. A very good afternoon to everyone. I have great pleasure in welcoming our Chief Guest, Sri Anil Bhaguna, former Joint Secretary, Department of Consumer Affairs, Government of India, to this discussion on rising role of direct selling in Aatmanirbhar Bharat. We are grateful to you, sir, for accepting our request and being with us this afternoon. I also welcome Mr. Pramod Manda, Dr. Pita Mukherjee, Madam Chavi Hemant, Mr. Vijay Sardana, Mr. Naresh Dikshit, and Mr. Manish Gupta. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And Mr. Gautam Bali could not join today, but we have a very strong panel of experts on the subject today. I will now request Madam Chavi Hemant to kindly present the background of the industry on this particular subject and also moderate the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajora. Thank you for always reaching out to me. It's a pleasure to be always present with the direct selling industry and people, all the panelists who are eager to come and also support the industry, which is still very, very important. So Vijay, thanks so much for joining, and thank you, Bhaguna ji. You came here this time. It's a pleasure, and it's also very important because your direction will help us to move forward. So moving forward, I am just requesting to share the screen. Give me the rights to share the screen so that we can start with the presentation. So is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So moving forward, we'll just go. We will go ahead and see how we can help to go forward with regarding to the presentation and the backend for this particular webinar which we are having. At the outset, I would also like to thank ASSOCHAM for continuing to do these webinars for the direct selling industry every month. So today, of course, the issue and the particular point we are going to discuss will be Aatmanirbhar Bharat initiative and how direct selling has helped to ensure that we become Aatmanirbhar. So the focus will be around that. How MSME is there to develop global expertise. Excuse me. Digital measures which have been taken by the industry, how the means of communications have changed because of COVID, and how much direct selling industry is doing for that particular thing. Startup initiatives, women empowerment, and Skill India initiative, which is largely dependent on this business. So if we look at the background, definitely direct selling industry is committed to the Aatmanirbhar Bharat. Our figures speak about it. The sales of our industry is 2.47 billion. That is 2019, till December 2019. CAGR growth is about 12.1%, and the global country ranking is at 15. The CAGR, if we look at direct selling industry specifically for India, then if we look at 15-20 years background, it's gone to about 23%, but during 2012-13 it took a huge dip and it came down to 4% just because of lack of clarity and the challenges which the industry was facing. How the industry has empowered the MSME it's a global expertise, because when in 1995 and 96, in the early 90s, when all these direct selling companies came into India, they were helping to ensure that the kind of products where they were manufacturing outside India, they gave all the technology and know-how to the MSMEs. And now many of these MSMEs are large business houses and also still supporting the direct selling industry to ensure the kind of quality which is there in the products manufactured by this industry, because it's not about one company. All the companies which are in direct selling industry, which are genuine, ethical, and follow the rules of the land, they are they are absolutely dependent, and the whole thing is dependent on research. So the research and the support which they get from SME is a huge thing for the direct selling industry. Digital measures have been taken, and that has eased the doing of business. If we look at, our the entire World Bank Ease of Doing Business report of 2020 has said that India ranks at 63. Of course, there is a huge lot of work which needs to be done, and now with the direct selling guidelines being adopted by the Consumer Affairs Ministry, there is going to be much more ease of doing business as well. So a lot is happening, and a lot of things the direct selling industry is doing to ensure ease of doing business, not just for direct sellers, but even for people at large, how to procure a product, how logistics are benefiting. So a lot is happening, and everything is happening digitally. So it's now like a direct selling is a face-to-face, and it's now becoming e-commerce oriented to ensure that deliveries reach on time, especially in these uncertain times. So a large section of direct selling people come from tier 2 and tier 3 and rural areas. The country is getting exposed to digitized means of communication. Because of, I will give you an example how this is happening. First, there were face-to-face meetings, and face-to-face meetings would happen everywhere, every day. Now there are far number of meetings happening. If we take even if we take one company and they have some 2 lakh distributors, so at least 1 lakh of them are actually giving trainings, whether they are their mentor, whether they are upline, whether they are downline, or they are prospecting. And lot of them now come from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The entire industry supports about 60 lakh direct sellers, independent sales consultant, out of which 50% are women. So a large of them come from direct selling tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And if we see, when I started in 2008, there were just about handful of companies, say about 50 to 60. And now if we go to the direct selling website of the direct selling companies, which is put on the Ministry of Consumer Affairs website, there are about 457 companies. Whether all of them are following the law or not, we don't know, but at least they have given their papers to get acknowledged that they have adopted direct selling business. So that is a huge thing which has happened. A lot of training is happening because of app development, logistics. In fact, a lot of companies are now using artificial intelligence to be used to understand the consumers, which will benefit their sales distributors. That is again a new trend which has been seen over these COVID times. So women empowerment, of course, is happening because it's always happened. In fact, if we look at globally, 70% of the women are always direct sellers. It is only in India that now we are about 50% men and 50% women. And with women, it is not largely that how much turnover or earning which they are doing. It is also the kind of confidence, training, and what they can build for themselves. If they were just providing for the family, which is also a huge thing, they are now more confident of seeing the world and taking care of their family, just because of the exposure which they have got from the direct selling industry and the training which they have got. So training plays a huge role in women empowerment, which is done by the direct selling industry. Lot of Skill India initiatives have been taken by the direct selling industry. In fact, there is also a tie-up. There is a tie-up with the Skill India Council also, to ensure that something or the other continues with the direct selling industry. It also imparts manufacturing know-how, which I also mentioned before, and of course the training of business partners, individuals, to core proposition of direct selling. The whole idea is that how the product quality remains same. To keep and ensure the high standard of product quality, a lot of training is imparted by the direct selling companies to MSMEs. And if you look at entire earlier, before COVID, there was still a lot of sourcing happening from China. But most of the companies envisage this and have stopped sourcing from China completely. So manufacturing and packaging again was a big thing, which used to, a lot of material used to come from China. So if we look at raw material and packaging, has now completely from the direct selling industry shifted to MSME. Manufacturing in any case was happening from here. So if we look at a larger context, about 90% of the products within the direct selling industry are manufactured in India. And if we look at the footprint of how direct selling industry has there, that most of the companies have, places where, at these particular places, Himachal Pradesh, Baddi, Ludhiana, Punjab, and Tamil Nadu, Dehradun and Roorkee, Uttarakhand. These are the places where most of the direct selling companies have their MSME partners, where they have factories and they develop a lot over there. That is all for now. And now we are going to take care and also listen to our panelists who have joined us from many, many different places. So now I request Mr. Pramod Manda. He's the director at Lambre Group and is an industry veteran who has more than 25 years of experience in not just direct selling, but even in FMCG companies, and has also been associated largely with other companies nationally and internationally.
Good evening, distinguished members on the panel. It's always nice to be, on ASSOCHAM and meet you all and discuss about the current trends. Hello, Chavi. Thank you very much. You've been a crusader for the direct selling industry for many years now. So it's always good to connect with you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes. You are very audible. Yes, very loud.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I thank ASSOCHAM for inviting me on this platform. A very relevant contemporary topic, I'm sure you'll all agree, that is happening on the birthday of our Honorable Prime Minister, who gave us the vision of the Aatmanirbhar Bharat, the Abhigyan. And obviously the current topic that we are going to deal with is how direct selling industry can become an integral part of this, vision that is, laid out in front of us by our, leader. Yeah, so I mean, Chavi did take us through, the stats and the infrastructure from the MSME perspective. And there's been a lot of impetus, stimulus given by the Honorable Finance Minister recently to the tune of about 3 lakh crores, particularly for the MSME in terms of improving the infrastructure, in terms of creating the supply, and also get the, the MSMEs which suffered in the recent times to get revived them. Obviously, that's going to help the infrastructure grow and the supply starts happening. Parallelly, I think what is important is the demand. So if the demand is not matching up with the supply or vice versa, we will have continued challenges. When it comes to the demand, obviously with the job losses, with the salary cuts, the wage losses, the discretionary spend is relatively less. That's what the data shows for the last 6 months. There are luminaries on the panel, they'll be able to throw more light on it. So with this, discretionary spend coming down, the demand has to pick up much more to meet the supply for the objectives of the Aatmanirbhar Bharat to be achieved in terms of the economy, GDP, and also the overall, health of the economy. So keeping this in mind, this is where the direct selling industry, I would say, would pitch in very well with the demand side. So the direct selling industry can help more people get into the, this industry and help create the demand, and which will increase the supply, and therefore the economy can take off much faster and meet the overall objectives. I strongly.
Yeah, Pramod, I'm just interrupting you in the middle. Mr. Vijay Sardana has to go for another session where he's needed and he has an interview. So we will continue to hear with you and first listen to our, Lego Techno expert, and he's been associated with direct selling industry, and he's also helping us to ensure that, we represent the government at the right place. So over to you, Vijay, and Manoj and Pramod, really sorry, but we will come back to you after Vijay and continue to listen to you with one point you mentioned.
Chavi, thank you very much, and sorry for this interruption, because as you all know that in Parliament, there's a debate going on new agriculture related bills, and I have to join the discussion soon in another half an hour. But this issue of direct selling, especially Aatmanirbhar Bharat, is very important issue. Am I audible, Chavi?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Thank you. If you recall, last time when we had a discussion on direct selling about 2 months ago, when we had a lot of interesting discussions on national retail policy, we had a discussion on how to build human capital, how to use various facets. Code of conduct was big debate, that how to bring the credibility of direct selling industry. So I made all those notes, and I don't know what is the status of that, whether we have made any progress or not. But anyway, now issue is on Aatmanirbhar Bharat. My way of looking at is that when the whole country is looking at opportunities for employment generation, and government of India is very keen to look at how various economic activities can be integrated for the employment generation and overall economic development both in rural and urban India, I think there is an opportunity for a direct selling industry. Today, as we all know that what people are looking at least COVID has done something interesting to all of us. COVID has made all of us little bit vigilant. People are looking for quality product. People are looking for product with immunity booster. People are looking product which are reliable, trustworthy, and people are not willing to take chance from hygiene and safety point of view. On the other hand, there are a lot of migration of people are taking place. A lot of small scale industries. Government of India is coming with various policies to generate employment with various schemes. So there is an opportunity, and there is a skilled manpower available which can be engaged with the direct selling industry, and that manpower is available. Just now I was reading almost 6.6 white collar jobs were lost in this COVID time. White collar jobs. It means we say highly skilled people in one sense. They are available to all of us if we can engage their potential, their knowledge base, their experience for direct selling sector. So my way of looking at is, I will not take much of the time because everybody knows what is direct selling industry. I have only few suggestions on which we should look at it, how to proceed on this. My 4 or 5 suggestions are, and that is what my total deliberation here is. Can direct selling industry, can we create a forum where people, those who are interested in engaging with direct selling industry and willing to support us. Today, you may be having office in Delhi, but you want to expand your base in South or East or North or West of India. One way is that I sell my product from India, from Delhi to Chennai, or from Chennai to Delhi, or travel all the way 3,000 kilometers. Doesn't make sense. Today, we all are operating on digital platform. Can we think of creating a forum for direct selling industry, where people, those who are willing to come forward as a small scale, medium scale manufacturing unit for my products? Suppose I want to say that I'm looking for manufacturer of shampoo, or I'm looking for pet foods, or I'm looking for cosmetics, I'm looking for sanitary napkins, I'm looking for even masks through direct selling. And if we have a platform where whoever is keen or has developed some form of an infrastructure not able to utilize fully because of various constraints, can they register themselves and say, yes, I have the following capacity or capability, and I am willing to support direct sellers or direct selling industry, you can use my facility. And then offline, direct selling brand holder or company can talk to these manufacturers, SMEs or micro industries, and engage into some form of a manufacturing, because what we have seen, like some of the food items, a good quality food items, the growth rate is as high as 3,000%. And overnight, you cannot create a 3,000% industry or capacity in your own captive facility. Maybe these facilities can be utilized to sustain your business model. They will get job work, and you get a product. Both are beneficiary. And you don't have to travel all the way from Delhi to Chennai to supply the product. You only communicate with your direct sellers electronically, do their workshop training electronically. Local manufacturer, as per your specification, manufactures the product under the guidance of your quality people, and the local managers can supply the product to the direct seller. You can expand the reach, but the today problem is we don't know who can help me as a vendor. So can we create a platform of a direct selling industry? If I say that those who are willing to become vendor for the direct industry, please register yourself. With your capability, a format can be created. ASSOCHAM or affiliate organizations can create that forum, and then you will find that companies from different parts of India more than happy to register themselves. And good part for direct selling industry is you will be able to expand much faster because you have a manufacturing base, you have other logistics people, you will get a people with a skill set. Somebody may say, I can offer you warehouse. Somebody can say, I can offer you packaging station. Somebody can say, I can offer you cold store. I can offer you refrigerated transportation. You will be able to integrate. So think of a model which can help in expansion of direct selling industry. That is one way of looking at it. Second area, which we have already discussed about women empowerment, I will say that even in the new era, empowerment is required at all levels. Large number of skilled manpower has gone back to villages, gone back to small towns. I am saying almost 6.6 white collar jobs were lost during last 3-4 months. But what they need is they need reskilling. Their exact skill may not be suitable to me, but they have a competency. I have to do a little bit brushing of their skills and they will shine with another performers in a direct selling industry. Can we create a portal? Second one, for attracting talent and human resource, those who are willing to develop skill for direct selling industry. Many of them can become a micro enterprises in their own town. They may source product from you, supply on their own, or they may promote your products in their own towns because they have a marketing skill, they have capability, they know their ecosystem. Because now they are visible to us, we can connect to them. Today we don't know. I want to do something in Begusarai. I don't know who is the person available to me who is competent. But if somebody applies from Begusarai to me on my portal, ki this is my background, this is my brief CV. I was working in, for example, Bajaj, or I was working in Tata's, or I was working in some IT company, and today I'm unemployed or whatever. I want to be part of your chain in this mission. Can I engage myself? You have opportunity tools because you have getting a powerful human resource in Begusarai to expand your business. So there is another way to look at it. So we need a portal both for skill development for direct selling industry, and it is not very difficult. It can be created easily. Third area which I am looking at is when we are creating a good quality product under direct selling industry, why not we think of exporting these products to the other parts of the world? Why we restrict that direct selling product only to Indian borders? So what I'm trying to say is that maybe to start with Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, to start with SAARC, then you move into Laos, Myanmar, Thailand. If they can come here, why can't we go there? Who is stopping us? Now, same manpower with the digital platform like what we are doing right now, I can talk to you sitting in Malaysia, I can talk to you sitting in Thailand at the same time. And what I can do sitting in the same next door colony or in the next room. So today technology has made us accessible to the world market. There is no need for you to go to, for example, Kuala Lumpur to conduct a training program. All the costs are saved. So you have to only, now issue comes up is, do we have to also export? Yes, if we have something unique products, why not we export? Otherwise, we can always export our intellectual property and find another vendor in Malaysia, get it manufactured there and sell in Malaysian market. Expand your reach, expand your profitability, expand your brand recognition around the world. So my way of looking at is that when we are talking of Aatmanirbhar Bharat, then we cannot continue in the same model of कि मेरा product है, आपको मैं एक थैला दूंगा, उसमें लेके घर-घर घूमिए. That is not relevant. And how these people can be the same housewives, how they can use the digital technology. Today, I'm not allowed to enter the house because of COVID. But can we help these distributors of direct selling industry products to use WhatsApp, to use other digital platforms where I create suppose I'm living in Mayur Vihar and I am a direct seller. I at least make a group of 100, 200, 300 household on my WhatsApp group. And as soon as I get a new product or a new message, I flash to my 100 customers and they say, please deliver in a hygienic condition. And how to handle the product hygienically and deliver to my neighbor should be a part of training. So what I'm trying to say is that this whole ecosystem has changed. Conventional way of direct selling will not work. And when we have an opportunity to expand with the help of technology, why not we relook into our business models, how we can integrate our working with the technology platforms, how we can develop better products which are required by the market, because market in certain segments are growing phenomenally. So I will say that there is a opportunity. So I'll just recap and conclude my remarks. First, create a platform for small MSME, those who want to work with us as manufacturers or suppliers. Second, create a platform where skilled manpower, corporate skilled or semi-skilled or technical skilled, whatever skilled manpower available in the country today, register themselves and try to become the part of the direct selling industry, and members can pick up and talk to them offline. Third is relooking into the skill sets. And fourth, relook into why this direct selling only within India and exports, and create a forum or a platform, another one, for reskilling of the existing direct sellers, how to use new technologies in a hygienic and safe way to deliver the product and for better communication. So this is what I just wanted to say, that when we are talking of Aatmanirbhar Bharat, it is not doing something differently. What we are doing, we have to do something better and at a larger scale. That is what we have to look at it. So Chavi, thank you very much for this opportunity. If there are any query, I'm willing to take it. Otherwise, you can send it to me, I'll respond.
Vijay, the thing is that, since we are talking about direct selling, lot of companies, they are already imparting training to their direct sellers. In fact, every day I can vouch that at least about 50,000, webinars must be happening just within the direct selling companies. The whole issue is that, few smaller companies have closed down because of the lack of volume which they have to sustain through COVID. But most organizations which were made on strong foundations, they haven't closed down, and they are still continuing.
Very important. Chavi, you mentioned that those companies have closed down because of small volumes. It is very important, pick up those case studies and study them, what went wrong, where they missed out an opportunity, and can we revive them? Because it is very important, because see, issue is that failure will give us a lot of learning.
Absolutely.
And we have to find out and talk to those entrepreneurs. Do you need any technical help? Because they were already in the business. They have closed down. It is sad.
Yes.
We should revive them and see that they start growing again.
So for that, I will probably at the end of the session ask Mr. Bhaguna to help, that, how we can help them to revive, and also ask Rajora ji from ASSOCHAM side that how we can do this particular thing. But the basic points which you said is that, the issue is the direct selling industry is doing already a lot of work within the direct selling scope and space which they have. And now, of course, as you said, it is a merger, as I mentioned, that, it's face to face through webinars and e-commerce, which is merged into the new form of direct selling. That is what is happening. So thank you for your discussion, Vijay, and we will get back to you with questions once we are at the end of the show. So back to Pramod now.
Thank you very much.
Pramod, I would like you to just recap the 3-4 points which you said. Of course, since we are celebrating today our PM's birthday, and Aatmanirbhar is the topic of our webinar today. So leading it from there, I would like that if you could also share other thoughts which you have.
Yes, thank you, Chavi, once again. So just to take the lead out of Mr. Sardana's message points that he raised. This this pandemic has actually been a blessing in disguise in some sorts, I would say, because we were able to think of things that we were never thought of. We were just going about doing business in the same manner as traditionally in the direct selling industry. Now I see a lot of women particularly in the companies that I am associated with, in remote corners, as far as Arunachal Pradesh or even interiors of Mizoram, they have become very adapted to the technology. They are able to do their own webinar trainings, attend sessions, and logistics. We have innovated a lot through logistics in this crisis times, and a lot of positives have come, and we could open a lot of new markets, which were hitherto we were thinking that they were not reachable and things like that. So a lot of innovations have happened. The technology has come to play a major role, and like Chavi mentioned, I think the e-commerce, blending, marrying the offline and online is the way to go forward. You can't just be doing the face-to-face, for a more number of days. We need to take leverage the benefits of technology, the advantages of technology, and create a hybrid model of offline, online, which is what many companies are doing globally. I think in India too, we were going to start. So that is something we can take the fundamentals of network marketing and superimpose on the e-commerce model, and you will find a lot of people would be interested. Everybody wants to make that extra, money, however they are, and it would be very nice to have multiple people in a household making, earning money. So that will reduce the dependence on the sole breadwinner of the family, and that is where direct selling comes in. Now, coming back to the Aatmanirbhar Bharat, one of the key objectives is to create employment. Direct selling industry can actually create a lot of employment. Today is also celebrated as by the netizens on Twitter. It's trending today, on it's unemployment day and stuff like that, and they're claiming that about 2 crore jobs are lost. So direct selling industry can easily give more than 2 crores of jobs, be part time or full time, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, in the youth as well as the women. Now we have millions of youth who want to who are finding difficult to get jobs, and they can get into the direct selling industry. And at a very early age, if they are inculcated the values of entrepreneurship, managing their own business, you can have probably world class entrepreneurs coming out of them, in the future. So that is one area where direct selling industry can immediately address the challenges. Now, coming to the support from the government, we have some, luminaries on the panel. I think we've been fighting for it. The regulation of the industry, some sort of an encouragement from the government in encouraging people to be part of this direct selling industry is very much required for us to gain that momentum which is required. For a country like India, we have only 6 million distributors. But if you look at a country like US, which has about 1/4 of India's population, they have 60 million distributors. On a comparable terms, India should be having about 60 million distributors, whereas we have only 1/10 of it, which is 6 million. And in MSMEs, we have 70 million workforce. So that means the direct selling industry alone can employ people equal to what MSME is employing. That is the potential of this industry. So it is like a startup. Our Prime Minister also on various platforms keep recommending, don't look for jobs, create jobs, become wealth creators. Exactly what direct selling does is, helping people create jobs and become wealth creators. So therefore, I think if there is a push from the government with the help of financial institutions, Chavi would know better, or even organizations like Niti Aayog or NSDC, if there is a push, there is an encouragement, all we need is we have more and more people becoming part of this industry. And that can create a lot of demand, that can create a lot of awareness, and therefore the MSME infrastructure, the supply chain can actually develop their capacity to meet this demand. So it's a cyclical process. So that's where I think direct selling comes directly into the Aatmanirbhar objectives of creating demand through more employment generation. Apart from this, like Mr. Vijay Sadhana said, another point that I have is going international. We need to raise the standards of our, the products quality and the manufacturing to be competitive on international platforms. For example, if you look at the European standards for cosmetics, which I deal with, there are about 1,300 chemicals which are banned in Europe, most of which are allowed in India. So if we were to become competitive on an international platform, it is what we want to be out of this long-term objectives of Aatmanirbhar Bharat, vision. We have to raise the standards of our manufacturing. We will not be overnight banning 1,300 chemicals in our cosmetics, but even if we have a medium to long-term plan of reaching those standards, then it will be easy for us to compete on international platforms and become a global players. Now, what will that do to direct selling industry is our direct selling Indian companies can go outside of India. We always are confined to India. Hardly few companies, handful of companies are going outside India. Now, why are we not able to do it? It's because our products should meet with the international standards. As of today, maybe we are okay with be vocal, be local, but we should be global as well along with that. And that will happen only if we raise the standards of quality of manufacturing, so that we don't have to suddenly think after 3 years that our products we have to become and start another project, but we can do it in a gradual manner so that we become global players and we have Indian companies who can go outside of India, like how most of the Asian and European American companies are coming to India for their business. We can spread. So this is the potential where we can become a global player, and also our products manufactured in India, we can become the factory of the world as we keep claiming. So that can happen if these things are implemented. Finally, I have one submission again. For all these startups, you have the venture capitalists, the seed funding, the support. But what a direct seller does when he joins the direct selling company is he or she is actually beginning his or own startup. If there is a support from the government, by associating with certain organizations or financial institutions in helping these direct sellers kickstart their business, it could be anywhere from maybe 10,000 rupees to maybe a lakh. They can support them. We will have a lot of women in particularly from the tier 2, 3 cities, and also the youth who take up this, direct selling and become, successful entrepreneurs. Now, these two, recognition, regulation from the government, and encouragement and support in the form of, some startup capital funding, we can go a long way along with the MSME for raising the quality standards. So I think this way the direct selling industry can integrate very well with the Aatmanirbhar, Bharat, and we can be an inclusive part of this vision and help achieve the overall long-term objectives. So thank you. I conclude with this. I hand it over to Chavi.
Yeah, thank you, Pramod. It was very confident, and yes, your points are very valid. Mr. Rajora, I would really request that if this point can be noted of taking help from the government in looking at startup investment, if we can get to the direct selling industries, because that will really pave a lot of way to regulated and proper foundation forming for the direct selling companies. Because many times we have seen that the startup, when they start, direct selling companies, when they start, the capital which they have to infuse in the company, they do not do that, because they wait for the network to grow and then only infuse the capital which they earn. So in case we get the capital from the government, it becomes easy and it becomes sustainable, and then we will not be hearing that so many companies have closed. Because I personally feel that out of the 457 companies which are listed over there, at least 20 to 30% would have closed down by now. So to ensure that we have proper companies with good ethics and good business practices, all these things should be there, and more stricter rules should be brought for the direct selling industry. So moving on, I would now request Mr. Manish Gupta, and before I ask him to talk and share his views, I will just give a brief background about him. He is in Coffer Retail, which provides extensive range of apparels for both men and women, which includes latest collection of clothes under various categories for all occasions. And I believe their packaging they have the travel package which they have is very very accepted by the consumers. So the packaging of the products from Manish Gupta's brand Coffer Retail has really been appreciated. So over to you, Manish Gupta, because direct selling industry really needs to learn a lot with respect to packaging. The reason not many companies cannot export out of India is because the quality of packaging which we do is still not as per international standards. So probably we'll get something to learn from you. Over to you, Mr. Gupta.
गुड इवनिंग। फिर मैं आप सबका पहले अभिनंदन करना चाहता हूँ। मैं आप लोगों के साथ आया इस वेबिनार में, इसके लिए मैं आप लोगों को धन्यवाद भी बोलता हूँ। एक्चुअली में मेरा इतना बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है डायरेक्ट सेलिंग कंपनीज का, क्योंकि मेरे को अभी 1 ही साल हुआ है इस कंपनी को इस इंडस्ट्री में आके और रनिंग करते हुए। बट मेरा ये एक्सपीरियंस जरूर है कि हाँ, डायरेक्ट सेलिंग में बहुत स्कोप है लोगों के लिए। अपना आत्मनिर्भर भारत का जो सपना है प्रधानमंत्री जी का, उससे रिलेटेड कि हर इंसान अपना एक बिजनेस सेटअप बना सकता है, क्योंकि हर किसी की जेब में बहुत पैसा नहीं होता बिजनेस करने के लिए। पर अगर वो चाहे तो डायरेक्ट सेलिंग के साथ अपना अच्छा खासा बिजनेस स्टार्टअप तैयार कर सकता है। और मेरा सपना तो शुरू से ही रहा है कि मेरे पास एक छोटी सी एनजीओ है, पहले वो चलाता था, बट इतना मेरा उसमें ज्यादा नजर नहीं आया। पर मेरा है कि मैंने अब डायरेक्ट सेलिंग कंपनी खोली है, तो जो अभी शायद विजय जी कुछ इसी बारे में ही बोल रहे थे कि जो छोटे छोटे मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं उनको हमें इसमें अपने साथ अटैच करना चाहिए। तो मेरा भी है कि जो एसएचजी ग्रुप होते हैं, सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, उन लोगों को मैं बोलूं कि अपने प्रोडक्ट्स आप मेरे थ्रू सेल करवा सकते हैं अगर आप चाहें तो। जैसे इंडिया में बहुत जगहों पे बहुत यूनिक प्रोडक्ट्स मिलते हैं जो हम तक पहुंच भी नहीं पाते। हम लोकल अगर मार्केट की बात करें तो वहाँ हमारे पास अवेलेबल नहीं होते, बहुत वो वहीं तक ही रह जाते, सीमित रह जाते हैं। वो लोग बनाते हैं बट उनके एरिया में जो टूरिस्ट आते हैं वही ले पाते हैं, बाकी मार्केट में नहीं निकल पाते। बहुतों के निकलते हैं, बहुतों के नहीं निकल पाते। तो मेरा तो सोचना यही है कि उन सबको कोशिश करें कि डायरेक्ट सेलिंग इंडस्ट्रीज के साथ अटैच किया जाए और सब कहीं ना कहीं इंडिया में एक दूसरे के कल्चर को भी और प्रोडक्ट्स को भी शेयर कर सके इसके थ्रू। मेरी जो सोच है वो यही है ज्यादा डायरेक्ट सेलिंग को लेके। मैंने शुरू किया है डायरेक्ट सेलिंग अपने छोटे मोटे ब्रांड के साथ, बहुत बड़ा भी मैं नहीं हूँ, बट ये है कि मेरी कोशिश ये है कि मैं काफी मतलब नेशन के लिए कुछ कर सकूं, लोगों के लिए कुछ कर सकूं। मेरे यहाँ से कमाने का इतना बड़ा एम नहीं है, जितना बड़ा एम है कि इस नेशन के लिए मैं कुछ कर सकूं और युवाओं को सही दिशा दिखाऊं। बच्चे ऐसे भी होते हैं कि माँ बाप उनको कहते हैं पढ़ो लिखो, वो पढ़ने में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होते, फिर वो कुछ काम नहीं करते, इधर उधर भटकते हैं। तो उनको अपनी तरफ ला के किसी काम में उनको इन्वॉल्व किया जाए, जिससे कि उनके घर में एक अर्निंग का साधन भी, वो लोग सही दिशा में भी चले। ये मेरी सोच है इस डायरेक्ट सेलिंग को लेके। और इसके लिए मैं गवर्नमेंट से जरूर चाहूंगा कि वो इसके ऊपर वो रेगुलेटरी जो अभी पेंडिंग है, एक बिल्कुल ऑथेंटिकेटेड वो बनाए, क्योंकि लोग इलीगल बहुत बोलते हैं। बहुत दुख होता है इस चीज को कि हम लोग इतना ईमानदारी से इस इंडस्ट्री को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, बट लोग इसके अंदर ये इलीगल काम है। बैंक इवन फाइनेंस इंस्टीट्यूशंस वो कई बार बोल देता है तो बहुत दुख होता है। बैंक अकाउंट खोलने को तैयार नहीं रहते, क्या कहते हैं पेमेंट गेटवे देने को तैयार नहीं रहते। पोस्ट मशीन मांगो तो कहेंगे आप क्या करते हैं, हम कहते हैं डायरेक्ट सेलिंग करते हैं। अरे डायरेक्ट सेलिंग करते हो आपको तो हम दे नहीं सकते। तो क्या मतलब हिंदुस्तान में हम लोग हैं तो हम सही तरीके से काम करें। आप अगर हम गलत काम करें तो बिल्कुल हमारे को आप बैन कीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, पर अगर हम सही तरीके से काम करें तो उसका सपोर्ट करना चाहिए। मैं तो ये चाहता हूँ गवर्नमेंट से कि वो हम लोगों को इतना मतलब हमारे ऊपर एक ऐसा कुछ रेगुलेटरी बना दे कि वो लोगों के अंदर ये वाला क्वेश्चन खत्म हो जाए। मेरा ये मानना है डायरेक्ट सेलिंग को लेके। ओके, थैंक यू।
धन्यवाद मनीष, आपने बहुत ही एकदम मुद्दा सही उठाया है। बिकॉज कम से कम 15 साल से ये हो रहा है कि काफी बारी जो है बैंक अकाउंट्स फ्रीज कर दिए जाते हैं ऑटोमेटिकली। मंडे मॉर्निंग यू गेट टू नो दैट योर अकाउंट हैज बीन फ्रोजन बिकॉज एंड यू कैन नॉट ऑपरेट एनीमोर। सो ये बहुत बारी हुआ है, ना सिर्फ इंटरनेशनल कंपनीज के साथ बट इवन जो हिंदुस्तान की डायरेक्ट सेलिंग कंपनीज हैं उनके साथ ये अक्सर देखा गया है। जैसे ही इंडिया में कोई थोड़ा बहुत छोटा मोटा या बड़ा भी कोई ना कोई ये कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा हो जाता है कि जिसमें काफी लोगों के साथ फ्रॉडलेंट एक्टिविटी हो जाती है, उसी टाइम कोई ना कोई गवर्नमेंट से डायरेक्टिव आ जाता है तो बैंक्स अपने आप जो है बहुत ज्यादा वो इनसिक्योर हो जाते हैं और इमीडिएटली दे डोंट थिंक क्या होगा बिजनेस का, बट दे इमीडिएटली वांट टू शट डाउन दैट अकाउंट। तो वो जो बात है दैट वी मस्ट टेक अप इन आवर we've taken up before also, but we must consistently take this point, Mr. Rajora, that bank accounts frozen is a huge step which happens very often. The issue is not it happens once in a while. It's been happening for last 15 years, especially for the smaller direct selling, jise Manish ji ne bataya, because they see us with an eye that, we are not doing the right business. But all businesses have hindrances. All businesses are good and bad, and so is direct selling. So there is no, and there are lot many people within the direct selling who are doing the right business with the right product, and also ensuring empowerment in other things which all of us mentioned so far regarding that Aatmanirbhar mission of India. And I am completely dependent that, I really want that, our direct selling industry should ensure that we actually reach someday to a 5 trillion economy. So moving forward, Naresh, I will come to you. Before we hand over the mic to you, I would like to tell something about you. Of course, we all know that, you are manufacturing eco-friendly products, which is a leading healthcare product distributor in the country. But I would like if you can introduce yourself and also talk more about your company, and then of course about direct selling and what we are discussing, the Aatmanirbhar Bharat through direct selling. Your voice is not audible, Naresh.
Thank you, Chavi. I'm sorry for that. Thank you very much, Chavi, for giving me the mic. And I really thank ASSOCHAM to give me this opportunity to present my views in front of the nation. And talking about me, I've been into this industry, direct selling industry, it's almost 30 years now. And seeing the ups and downs of the industry, different stages of the market scenario which was going on. And talking about my company, Saranu Eco-Friendly Products. We are into a lot of health products, FMCG products, and we are also into open market products also, giving opportunity to the skilled, underprivileged and manufacturers in the rural areas to earn their living. And I strongly believe and my Prime Minister's vision. Am I audible, Chavi? I think
in between the signal goes, then you are not audible. It becomes mute, but then again we can hear you. But it's like for a fraction of a second your voice wasn't there.
Okay. So I was saying that I am totally talking about our Prime Minister's vision about independent person being independent, and a person should not be a job seeker and become a job provider. And this direct selling industry actually gives a platform for everyone to become a job provider. And as Dr. Sadhana and Pramodji was saying, I agree with them. In the policies which are there with the government, we need to liberalize some policies so that these people, the direct sellers, are given opportunity in different places and regard and respect, so that they can promote this thing and provide jobs to the nation. I strongly believe, because this is the industry where a person, I would say कि कोई आदमी, कोई इंसान भूखा उठे तो सही, लेकिन रात को भूखा सोना नहीं चाहिए. यही एक ऐसी इंडस्ट्री है जहां से ये चीज प्राप्त हो सकती है हर किसी को.
Very nice.
And talking about exports, we need to have some subsidies, some liberalization from the government so that we can export our products abroad and bring revenues for our Indians. And having small sectors, manufacturing units in different states or different parts of India, and can utilize in the same areas. Getting local, as again I would say the Prime Minister said, vocal, do local ko vocal. So we have to make local products more available in the market and at a better price, better quality, And again, there should be a contribution for the government because the taxation are on the higher ends. So in direct selling, I think if they give some relaxation for taxation also, that would help people to get into the industry and get into manufacturing, and the prices and the quality would be sustained. आत्मनिर्भर भारत तब होगा जब देश आत्मनिर्भर हो जाएगा, और देश आत्मनिर्भर होगा हमारी पॉलिसी से, हमारे प्रमोशन से, हमारे टेक्नोलॉजी से। आज कोविड के टाइम में टेक्नोलॉजी को प्रमोट किया गया है, लोग जानते हैं, लेकिन वी नीड टू हैव दैट education to use the technology, like through webinars, through WhatsApp. If we have a lot of facilities on this technology all over, especially in the rural sector, so that would actually really help India to promote direct selling and our skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, and new starters, MSMEs. So I would request our association to pass on the message to the government to actually facilitate to the most wanted, underprivileged, and initial starters, as a lot of companies have shut down, help them to promote not only the company, the products, and the nation to provide jobs. Thank you so much. I would conclude here, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, you have pointed out very right points over here today in your discussion, and definitely we will take up these points during the course of our discussion with ASSOCHAM and ensure that some sort of representation does go to the government authorities to ensure that, you know, the ask which you are saying and which are very genuine reach to the right people, and we have policies related to direct selling industries. And of course, we do need some subsidies and some type of special policies for direct selling, because we have been providing a lot of business and self-employment to this industry. If and my personal opinion is that even if, you know, we have benefited about, the numbers would be far more, but even if we have benefited about 10,000 women to become self-reliant, that is a huge step. And I am 100% sure that this number of 10,000, I am saying, taking it a very conservative, very conservative. And I'm talking about women who are earning more than 50,000 plus. All these 10,000 women, and from different companies. In fact, I would like to also mention, there is a person by the name of some Mr. Ankit. He's just 22-year-old, and he's reached out to us personally that he has opened a direct selling company, and he wants to know how he can ensure that the foundation which he's taking is the right one. So there are a lot of youngsters who are actually looking at providing jobs and creating companies to ensure that, you know, we actually lead the Aatmanirbhar, the Aatmanirbhar mission, which we have all collectively accepted from the Prime Minister. So now over to Dr. Arpita Mukherjee. I always like to have Arpita's discussion because she is the one who is the oldest with regards to retail. Excuse me. By the way, I'm all well. It's just that my throat is not doing well, but I'm healthy. So everybody can be rest assured of that. So, of course, we all know Arpita a lot. She's a professor at the Indian Council of Research on International Economic Relations. And for the last 20 years, she's been doing research on retail, internal trade. And last time when we had discussion with her about 2 months back, she was the one who actually recommended that we should come for a national retail policy or national internal trade policy, so that there is a lot of clarity and a lot of ambiguities are resolved. So now, Arpita, over to you. How do we lead this industry with your support on the regulatory matters for this industry? And definitely we need some considerations from the government where your recommendations go, that we get some provisions to ensure that we can move forward with little capital and things like that. So over to you, Arpita.
Hi, Chavi and everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this seminar. It is quite important because we are talking about Aatmanirbharta, and the thought behind the Aatmanirbharta is that you see India has been trying for some time, from 2014 and even before that, because even before that we had a manufacturing policy, and then we had the Make in India initiative. So somewhere we were not able to really make in India. And after we tried to improve our ease of doing business and other things, still we were not able to make in India. We had been heavily dependent on China for the supply chain, and COVID-19, initially when COVID-19 happened, the whole story was to how to relocate the supply chain out of China into other countries, and including India, and whether India is able to provide an opportunity for the relocation. And therefore, if you look into that, a company needs to think that if I have to relocate my supply chain out of China, and if I have to come to, how do I actually plan my relocation? And that's the most important thing that the government would like to know, that how much of the manufacturing can be, value addition can be within India, and what are the other raw materials or intermediary products that are needed from other countries. Now then comes to, of course, when you come and do your manufacturing, when you do your investment, that is related to your demand. And although the direct selling industry is growing a lot in India, as we have seen from the discussions of the previous speakers, the demand has not been created to that extent, and that is reflected by various thoughts the speakers are putting forward. So some speakers spoke about the limited number of direct sellers compared to the population and compared to other countries like the US, which means that the industry still needs to grow and still has a potential to grow. Now, so therefore one needs to really identify why the industry has not grown, because this is like kind of a 20 years industry. Like foreign retailers, e-commerce company, Indian e-commerce company, retailers, they are all struggling today. And with a large country, with a large consumer base, if the consumers don't purchase, you continue to survive, have a survival issue, have a growth issue. Now, how do you as an industry and how do government support you to bring you out from this kind of significant recession into a growth phase is what we need to really see in the next 2 to 3 years. In the next 2 to 3 years, the focus is on sustaining the recession, coming out of it, growing, and then promoting exports. So this is the core theme of the Aatmanirbharta, and reducing dependence on import, maybe getting more FDI into manufacturing. So for doing so, then you look into your regulations. So for doing so, there is certain things that the businesses need to do, and there is a certain thing that the government need to do. Now, when you look into the retailing framework, retailing has a quasi-federal framework, and so is direct selling. So the overall framework in which the government at the center can come out with model regulations, it is up to the state to take or not to take. What have we achieved so far? So far, the government has been able to achieve that they now know the number of direct sellers. So they never knew the number of direct sellers. So they know there is 457 odd, but unless there is a yearly survey or a yearly recording, you yourself are giving all rough estimates, like all the stalwarts of these industries are saying 20 to 30%, 30 to 40% have gone, they are here. So therefore, there is some kind of a yearly survey of, even if you have a database, that database needs an yearly update format by which you know at least what is the number. Where are they present? What is the number, in which sectors they are present, and what they plan to do. So these are the basic numbers that a government needs for policy, and today I must say for this sector these numbers are absent. Now coming to the next part, we go by our standard knowledge that we have developed over the 20 years to say that 60% of our companies are in healthcare and other products. But is there an option to move to other areas like edutech? It is a very new area, like education going technology, training going technology, modules going technology is a very, very new area. And how do we actually do that? Third is healthcare and food. Now, there are direct selling companies which are in healthcare and food, and in this slowdown also, more food is one sector that has been able to survive. So focus will be in another 6 to 8 months will also be on food and health product, nutritious products of certain companies, and sanitation products. So many of these direct selling companies have an edge in that, and therefore they may not be as adversely affected as some other companies which may be in fashion and other areas of retail. But you know, in a modern world, you have a store format and a non-store retail format where you started off with, but in a modern world, it is more of a mixed format. A direct selling company should be able to sell through its website, through a social media platform, through an e-commerce platform. It should be able to decide its business model. And what is the role of the government? The role of the government is to protect the consumer, whichever format from which it buys. And the protection of the consumer is both in terms of the consumer protection, in terms of the quality of the purchases, where it can go and say that the format of the purchases, that whether I have a return policy or not a return policy, I'm happy with the product, not happy with the product, as well as the consumer privacy and security. So that my data which is coming to you through any format should not be misused. Here in India, the biggest issue today is probably the data privacy and national security issue. So we get highly confused about personal data, non-personal data, shareable data, not shareable data which can be misused across platforms. So we are very worried. Will I be in Amazon? Will Amazon take away my data? So data has been a cause of the concern. And somehow the debate of the direct selling companies have tried to ignore the data. Then the second thing is a business format. Business format has been a major concern, because we tend to confuse between direct selling modes, pyramid modes, Ponzi schemes, and that from time to time, while people talk about it, it is only the direct selling industries in direct selling platforms talking about it. So that is again another area which requires a more brainstorming and understanding about the schemes. The third thing, as I am hearing from you, which is actually very important, you know, Saudi Arabia is now taking up the G20 presidency this year, and with Saudi Arabia so much restriction on women, their core themes are like digital financial inclusion for women, youth and SME. And when we are looking into that, we are taking the G20 presidency in 2022. Have we ever thought of those themes? You know, even in our current situation with COVID, we were able to give the incentives to the farmers, you know, outright. By April, they had the incentives. It took us so long to even give the incentives to the SMEs. SMEs are not digitally inclusive. And you are talking about a modern digital world where you need a financial and digital inclusion. So therefore, that is something that you need to think about. Digital infrastructure, that is something none of us spoke about, the digital infrastructure, although we suffer from it every day to day life. Conducting training is not such an easy job if the digital infrastructure is not provided. Now, what do you need from the government? Imagine a situation when the government cannot pay salaries to the healthcare workers and to the school teachers. If you think the government will pay some money for, you know, companies and startups, we are in a very fancy world. So we are not going to get that in the next 2 to 3 years. In the next 2 to 3 years, the government can do is to give us a supporting policy, help us to get the data sorted, helps to get certain joint international funding, so you can create a joint international startup hubs for startups. So that is a possibility that you can get in, or you can get a multinational funding for training and skill development in partnerships with the National Skill Development Council. So I'm trying to say what is possible. If you go directly to the government for funding, I don't think the government will be able to give any. But in the next 2 to 3 years, because they are struggling with their own finances. So So we need to go and ask for what is possible now in the context, and we need to bring in the develop. Now what the government is doing, the government has walked out of RCEP. The government does not want to engage with China. It wants to engage with ASEAN countries. It wants to redo the trade agreement. It wants to redo the look into its trade agreement with Japan and Korea. It wants to set up a supply chain between Japan, Australia and Korea. It wants to engage with the European Union. It wants to engage with the US. Given this format, as a company, you need to decide that in this format, how do I benefit? How do I set up my supply chain? How do I actually make the best of what is the part of the policy? And that is something which you need to think, decide, put forward together as a part of ASSOCHAM to the government, and that is something that they would be able to offer it to you. Regarding startups, we really need to know. I want to become a startup in India is very common, and if you see how many startups are there in India and how many startups are registered with the Startup India and how much funding is allocated to them, I don't consider that to be a really successful policy. A policy if it is not able to completely utilize the fund, is therefore there is no taker of the policy. And that is something we need to really think about, that how do we actually work on that? Do we need to set up a separate committee which can evaluate these startups in direct selling for funding? Because that is what other countries do. They do have specialized committees which look into startups at different areas to identify the startup requirement, fundings, and so there is need for the government to understand the requirement, because the regulatory requirements are not for the startups. The regulatory requirements are across the board. Fourth is something that the industry needs to really work with the government is a policy consistency, transparency, and a roadmap. I think here we are talking about so many things, but at the end of the day, what you need is a transparency, clarity, roadmap, that this is how the policy is going to look like in the next 5 years. And this is what the government plans to deliver in terms of policies and other infrastructure in the next 5 to 10 years. Because unless there is a roadmap or a policy clarity, every day you are worried what is going to happen to us. And that is something which affects your ease of doing business. But the struggle that World Bank is having this year to take out the country ease of doing business indicators also mean that there are problems. May not be in India, maybe across the world, but there are problems which we need to really think about. From a company perspective, I think if there are 457 companies, I can't even remember 10 to 12 brands being working in the direct selling sector. So how do you develop your brand? How do you market your brand? How do you do your brand loyalty? That brings you to the question of the quality, visibility. Those things are absolutely important. And how do you go beyond your direct selling industry? Direct selling industry, talking in a direct selling platform is very fine, but how do you actually talk in a much more wider platforms and take yourself out into a much more wider gamut is very important, because others beyond this group are not very aware of the good part of the industry and bad part of the industry also. They always hear it as a pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme kind of a thing. They don't hear the positive contribution of this sector. The important part, the positive contribution is of course the contribution to the women, the empowerment. In future, in future there will be a lot of employment in the mode of self-employment. And direct selling, they talk about employment and the government get confused because it is a form of self-employment. It creates a majority in terms of self-employment and independent entrepreneurs. If we come out and say that very clearly, that we are creating entrepreneurs, we are creating investment, and there is a more data-driven, evidence-based policy making. Here the problem is we don't know how much investment is made by the sector in the from the domestic sources, from the international sources, how, in what kind of categories, how many SMEs are linked to the industry. So the data in this industry is so very fragmented that we do not have that information. If there is a system of a regular data collection, even through a survey of companies by the organizations like ASSOCHAM, and that data can be analyzed and presented, you will be able to much more present the contribution of the sector, which I think is getting a little kind of backstaged because we do not have that kind of data. We are very weak. There is lot of women. There is lot of these things. That is kind of that is not data driven. So if and I think the data will also make you much more captured in newspaper articles and in social media. You will immediately get the data and the kind of space that you need in a digital world. So one of my suggestion would be to have a data driven policy making, to also show the good practices, code of conducts. They will be part of the data, and to show the regulatory and the policy gaps and what is needed from the industry, from the government. And you need to prioritize your list, but don't put in a complete laundry list. And I mean, like, for example, you have to delete certain things which government cannot give, like, please give me direct funding, please delete. But if you need a product, if you need a kind of a banking product, or CDP has to come out with some certain products for the SMEs which are linked to this industry, please suggest that. Please give a little bit more innovative suggestions which enables the government to take forward some of your suggestions into its own policy making. This is all from me for now, and I can come back with further questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Arpita. Definitely point very well noted. And of course, there is a complete lack of data of MSME, and the data which I have is also very, very old. So there was no point sharing that data. Hence, we just ensure that, we just talk about how it is benefiting in the larger context. Since you spoke about, suggestions which should come, I'm requesting Pramod, if you could take lead, Pramod, on ensuring to send us some particular suggestions which we should ask from the government directly to Mr. Rajora. And then, of course, Mr. Rajora will take it forward from there. So now moving on, I would now like to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Anil Bhaguna, former Joint Secretary, Department of Consumer Affairs, to deliver the keynote address for today. Sir, we have a lot of hopes from you, and we really want to learn a lot to ensure that we get some kind of stability in the industry. Both Arpita and me have been working in the industry for very, very long, and we are just blowing the same trumpet again and again. So if we get some direction, maybe we will be able to improvise and lead the industry to a better format than what we are today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ASSOCHAM and Chavi, for extending this invitation and giving this platform to share with very illustrious members of the industry and the industry association, as well as the academia. I believe Dr. Pita Mukherjee, has been working in this area for a long number of years. In fact, to tell you very honestly, to me and to many of the people, direct selling was embed Upperware. It was like a retailing model that, instead of brick and mortar going to store, you have a representative who comes to you. And it also gave me an impression. I was abroad and I saw at one place there were a large number of women representing Mary Kay, a cosmetic company. And
Yes.
they were very proudly wearing their pink suits, and each one of them had a dream in her eyes that someday she will own a pink car, someday she will visit America. It adds to the family income, and they live a better lifestyle. They have the luxury of traveling here and there with family. So it was like, a homemaker also dreaming of improving the lot of the family. But here it is the entire business ecosystem as far as the direct selling entities are concerned. It's just not that you have a chain of people who are selling here and there going to people. And the COVID has further redefined the way we have to work and the business model. I remember at one time I was there in consumer affairs, and some of the big companies came and they were really concerned that their products are being sold on the e-commerce platforms. So I
Yes.
did not understand. I said, you see, what's the worry about? Ultimately, they sell. So if they are being sold, and I said, that's your own hierarchical structure which has to take care of that. What am I going to do? Because there is not even a regulation on the direct selling sector. In fact, the basic problem with this sector has been not that the way it has been working, but because it has been confused by the law enforcement agency, whether income tax department, whether enforcement department, whether the local police, that they have often confused it with Ponzi schemes. They have often looked at it from the lens of PCMCS banning Act 1978 and so on and so forth. So at times they forgot that this is the way of doing business. Because in this country, the problem has been that people who have been engaged in creation of wealth has been looked very suspiciously, which is very unfortunate. Because wealth generation ultimately is required. And in this given situation, when everything is nosedive, things have really fallen apart. It is better that we prioritize what we have to do. Although having a platform doesn't cost you much. You know, a, a portal to know the talent, if it can be drawn, is something which won't cost. Talking about direct selling entities over social media doesn't cost much. It is a very economical. So all the models, the e-commerce of this web-based platforms can very well be used to spread the message, to work on this model. And also, I would suggest that while the guidelines of 2016 were drawn up by the Department of Consumer Affairs, the basic driving force was that, as I told you before, that the even direct selling entities were being harassed. The consumers were being duped at times. The consumers didn't know what they are dealing with. The direct selling entities also had a lot of problems with the law enforcement agencies. So at least there is some definition, there is some way to protect them also, these guidelines came. Now these guidelines will be given shape of rules under the new Consumer Protection Act, because that act has a provision of making rules for this. So once this thing comes up, obviously the interest of the industry to some extent and consumers by and large, because the Department of Consumer Affairs will be consumer centric. Their approach will be pro-consumer. The consumers, before they engage with the entity, they should know what it is. So what you were mentioning, I think Dr. Pita also mentioned, and before that, uh, Mr. Pramod also, that there is a list of about, somebody said that it's not known how many entities are engaged in the business. There are the companies which have been not even registered, I would say, whose declarations have been accepted and lodged in the portal of the department are roughly about 450, 52. Because now the thing is that I'm not privy to many of the things. I'm not in the service, nor am I part of any association. So what I come to know is from my colleagues or I read somewhere. Whereas roughly 950, 59 of the companies had sent their information, their particulars, to be lodged on the portal. So basically, many people still confuse it with registration. They would come to us
Yes.
also many times. They would raise a query to me that I have not been registered. I said it's not a registration at all. It's simply an information to be hosted on the website of the department so that a consumer has free access to that portal of ours. He can or she can see that where you stand, whether you have any cases against you, because people again would complain. The local police would come. We also told the state governments, I remember that, why don't you prepare your own model guidelines? Only 13 states have done it so far. As far as nodal officers are concerned, only 30 states have 30 states and UPs have done it so far. So sometimes, these must be some additional charge with somebody, the person may not be dedicated to this. So they may not even have time. They would go by some, Here say that this has happened, some input from somebody, some complaint, and it becomes an issue. So once the rules are in place, perhaps, things would be much better for the industry, for the consumers as well. And also, I would suggest that, basically, rather than pinning too much hopes on the government treasury, because now things are different. You see, even the DA has been frozen. So the priorities would be somewhere else. So to expect that, government will outrightly finance startups, things like that would be. It may happen after 2 years, 3 years, as Dr. Mukherjee has said, no doubt. And it is something which should be supported because this is truly one area which offers tremendous opportunities for generation of jobs, which is the biggest problem today. And also it can be a driver for creating demands as well. Because the thing is that if you have income generation, only then there will be some demand, and then one can talk of logistics and supplies. As far as the export potential of the sector is concerned, no doubt there is definitely, because so far the understanding of an average person would be that direct selling entities are into food supplements, vitamins, and cosmetics and things like that, because that's where the most of the leading names are, and that's where the people interact most. There might be so many other areas which need to be told, that direct selling entities are engaged in. And of course, quality is one thing which has to be first and foremost. Even now, domestic survival will be dependent on quality because people are very judicious in spending now. And even online, they first make sure the reviews, what kind of quality reviews and comments are there, how good they match the standards. Even if you're exporting to Europe, you have to match the Senelec standard. If you're sending it to Germany, then you have to, apart from Senelec, meet their standards. Or even toys, something like that, which you might be making in India. The thing is that the standards are very, very regulations, etc., are very rigid. So we have to match those standards, those regulations to be competitive. The only thing is that as a pressure group, you have direct selling associations, a couple of them. You have, chambers of commerce and industry, whether they are ASSOCHAM, FICCI, others. They can act as a pressure group and see that the guidelines which will take shape of the rules really address your aspirations of the industry, of the consumers. That would be the first thing you must do. And secondly, also work out a roadmap for the next 3 years, how, what kind of assistance will be required. And it should be something doable. Otherwise, it will be a wasted effort. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I always felt that this, segment of the industry has tremendous potential to grow, to not only add to the GDP, but also to add to the employment, not only directly, but also through its cascading effects. Because you will be having production units and so on and so forth, supply chain, packaging, and everything will be employing people. So that way, it's a great opportunity. And I can only say that with these initiatives, what we have taken, and they should go on further also, because discussion now it's not possible face to face, and it's not even viable. It's better to have it on a webinar or on these mediums, so that it's very quick, fast, and very economical as well. So with this, I thank you again and wish you all the best in your efforts, and thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, thank you so much, Mr. Anil, for giving us the direction. We will definitely take up your points, and ASSOCHAM will reach out and ensure that we go in the direction which you have advised. Definitely, once the rules will be made and the Consumer Protection Act, which has come into place, will definitely strengthen the industry, no doubt. But as you rightly pointed out, it will be consumer centric. What we are looking at now, as even Arpita said, that it has to be little operation oriented, so that we have more clarity regarding operations. The direct selling guideline was a huge step because it gave us a definitional clarity. At least we are there in the law books somewhere within the regulatory framework of India. So that was a huge step, and both me and Arpita have contributed a lot of effort to get those guidelines in place. So now moving forward, we have a few questions which Mr. Rajora has shared with me. So the first question is, many e-commerce websites are potential threats for the direct sellers as they place the same product of the same brand promoted by direct selling entrepreneurs in a desirably low price. How many times it is seen that some direct sellers themselves contaminate the market by doing so. Of course, we are aware about it, and about these things are done by the direct sellers. Will the direct selling organization take steps to safeguard the interest of the entrepreneurs associated with the industry? If yes, what steps would be taken? Will the direct selling organization take steps to safeguard the interest of entrepreneurs associated with it? So this question is to you, Pramod, since you are the one who's dealing with this and logistics. So how do we deal with this? I will of course add to your answer. I have had some experience dealing with the companies on this, but first I would like to listen from you. How do you help the people who are coming on the website and they see the same product at a lower price on an e-commerce website? You're not audible, Pramod.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, we all can hear you.
Yeah, I think e-commerce and direct selling, in my view, have to go hand in hand. You look at the big day sale that Flipkart does. Probably what the entire direct selling industry does here in India, I think they do it in one great day sale. That's the kind of potential that e-commerce. And in the light of this pandemic, I think everybody wants to go through digital transactions and e-commerce. So therefore, it's a necessary evil. We can't say that we have to be, we can't go to the e-commerce. That means we are missing out on a huge opportunity. That's what globally also, if you see, there are a lot of hybrid models which are coming up, which you will see in the next year or two, where they use the fundamentals of direct selling superimposed on the e-commerce model, which is the way the future is going to be. And today in India, if you talk to anybody about direct selling, maybe 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 would be interested. But what about the rest of the people who are already on an e-commerce, purchase, mode? Now, if we are able to integrate the direct selling with the e-commerce, that's the way to go. But having said that, obviously we'll have to face these challenges of direct sellers, going on e-commerce and having this price war, underpricing, which the right word used was contaminating, which will undervalue the brand and create unhealthy competition. But that is, I think the respective companies will have to handle those, have stringent measures. I think even if you have the electronic companies or the telecom companies like mobile phones and all that, you could have some dealers probably underpricing them extremely. But I think there are some regulations in place where the companies control those kind of unhealthy practices. So I think the imperative lies on the individual company, but I think it has to be governed by a forum or a council, as some of our panelists have suggested. That somewhat the companies cannot say that I will do the way I want to do it, but they have to abide by the law of the land, but also by law of the industry, which has created a forum. And therefore, I think within those norms you can play around, but I think trespassing and going beyond that would not be allowed. But at the same time, we cannot, be blinded by the e-commerce potential. If we're doing it, the direct selling industry is going to lose out on it. So therefore, I think the marriage between these two has to happen. That's what I strongly believe. If we are not doing it, I think somebody else will take the advantage. The direct selling industry will be the loser. if we don't do that. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Pramod, for your answer, and I'm very happy that you took this view of integration, because we both Arpita and me, we had recommended this recommendation of integration almost about a decade back, that sooner or later we will have to accept this and move forward. Arpita, I believe you want to add to the answer.
I would like to add to the answer, and what I need to actually talk about is, see, when we talk about prices being lowered. So let's consider a direct selling company and the same product being sold through a e-commerce platform, and the price is lower. In India, we have a MRP based model of pricing, which is by itself fairly outdated model, but it was created at a time for protecting the consumer. So there is a difference between the MRP and the cost of manufacturing. And then if there is below the cost of manufacturing, or it is a kind of a predatory pricing situation, there is an anti-competitive regulations. Now I need to understand from the direct selling companies that how far they have looked into the anti-competitive regulation, and whether the regulation is addressing their concerns or not, before they blame somebody else to sell it at a lower price, because price competition is healthy in a country. We also prefer price competitions, right? When we do our shopping, we look for discounts. So therefore, there is a healthy competition and there is an unhealthy competition, and where we need to really focus on is the unhealthy part of the competition. And if that is happening, where there is an anti-competitive practices, we definitely need to take a strong position on that and we need to leave the healthy competition to operate.
Yes, I fully agree with Mr. Pita. I think the underpricing primarily happens because of the front loading which some companies do. When you have a primary front loading done and you don't enable that distributor to do the secondary in terms of through training and so forth, retailing, that's when the products get stuck, and especially nutrition and cosmetics which have limited shelf life. Now that is when they resort to these kind of measures of trying for a clearance kind of a liquidation kind of an approach, which leads to this unhealthy competition. Again, I would say the emphasis lies on the respective company, but I think the company should be wary and cautious about a bigger body which might take punitive action if it is repeated. The companies cannot, in the garb of, being, free to do what they want, cannot get away. I think that regulation within the industry, not by the government, should happen so that, everybody abides by the, the guidelines, the internal guidance the industry comes up with.
Thanks, Pramod. Now I'll move on to Naresh. Naresh wants to add something to this, because this is very, very critical for the direct selling industry, this question.
Thank you, Chavi, for giving a chance. I would suggest, actually, there are generally the plans how you promote your products. It's on bulk buying, people get incentives. And this direct selling concept is actually not of bulk buying, is actually creating a self-users. And when we give incentives in bulk buying, this undercutting always happens. So we need to design a plan so that a person actually does direct selling, but not by lifting the product and making stocks in their cars or in their van and become a salesman. It's not a concept of becoming a salesman. It's a concept of creating a network and directly a base. We need to create a community of user base. Use whatever you want to use it for your family, and recommend to people, okay, this is a right product or it's a quality product. It's a business of recommendation from where you can directly get it from the customer. That's the major reason when you find most of the company products available in the market at price what you're getting from the company, it's much under that. And this is a major challenge in our industry. So we need to design something where we should not get any products or get any major incentives just for lifting products or motivating anyone to buy bulk buying. So bulk buying is a curse for our industry. Yes, a momentary sale is done, but it spoils the total industry. Giving an offer is for using it. It is not an offer for a product. You can buy 100 dozen of particular product. No, you should have a check about that. Okay, why a person is buying so much of product and single? What is he doing with the product? Is he actually creating a user base, or he is spoiling the market? We need to understand that, and I think we should give it thought about the plans or the offers, whatever the e-commerce company or direct selling companies are doing it. We need to have a check on that. So I think that's my suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Naresh. This was a very nice suggestion. Yes, we are the direct selling industry is based on building sales network. I will just share an example. Like we all know the media houses. So when media houses has a sales department and they have people, in the same manner, every direct seller, you yourself are an organization for yourself. So the simplest way of explaining direct selling is that the direct selling company or entity has outsourced the business of selling to public at large. So every public person who joins the direct selling business is an entity or is an organization by itself. And they should follow the law of the land as it is for entrepreneurs. Then only we can get more credibility and also more support from the government. Other thing which I wanted, there's another question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Actually, there's the awareness of the law is not there. That should be publicized in such a manner that every person should know the law. And unfortunately, everyone comes up with a new law. No one is aware, or we don't have any sites or places where we can understand what the law is, because we actually did not have any law. There are only just guidelines which has come in. I've been for the legal chapters also earlier, but where we could understand there's a lot of difference. People could not know. We said there are some schemes which are Ponzi schemes. People don't know what is the difference between a Ponzi scheme and a normal scheme. What's a scheme? What's a plan? They don't understand. Positioning of like we have different plans. Positioning binary. What is that? People don't know. So that awareness, that education is required. And the law, whatever the law or the guidelines are, should be published in such a manner that every person from a rural sector or from the urban sector should know it, or it should be displayed in companies, or it should be a disclaimer which should be declared in the websites also.
Very nicely pointed out. And Mr. Rajora, team ASSOCHAM, I would really ask that, we have had a very good discussion today, and these points should be noted and we should take it forward. The last thing, I would like to add is regarding this, that, ASSOCHAM should take the lead in having a common platform for the e-commerce companies and direct selling entities, and see how we can resolve our own ambiguities and form an operation based, which is self-regulation, which works on self-regulation, helping everyone, the consumer, because that is number one priority. If they buy only, then we are in business. Otherwise, we are not in business. Number two, the direct seller, who is the one who's selling the product every day and is the one who's facing the consumer every day. And of course, the entities and the e-commerce companies. So that is the only way. Bridging the gap between the e-commerce companies and the direct selling entities is the way forward for the growth of both the industries in the future. There are many questions I would like to ask Mr. Rajora. Should we continue, or we would, because there are about 3-4 more questions. So do we have time to ask, or what is your advice, Mr. Rajora?
Yeah, I think we can take up 1 or 2 more questions and then we will close it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rajora, for giving us some extra 10 minutes.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Rajora, for giving us these extra 10 minutes. There is Mr. Raj Gopalan, he has written, if more direct selling is taking place, what will be the future of large number retailers in our country? Arpita, I would like you to take this question, and then I will subsequently add to it. If more direct selling takes place, what will be the future of large number of retailers in our country?
I think India is a large market there is an echo. I think India is a large market to accommodate both direct selling as well as retail. Direct selling is not devoid of retail. These are different modes of retail, and India is a large market to accommodate. And the how much is available in the market, that depends more on the economic growth. Like if you saw that the growths are slowing down, even major brands that are globally, they are closing down their stores, right? So, but in future, you would see the store-based retail formats are giving way to non-store formats. Even when we did retail ages ago, there was a huge cry when about the impact on unorganized retail of the organized retail, and now unorganized retailers are also going into platforms, going online. So and home delivery mode was always there. So I don't think that the retail industry is very worried about the competition, as long as there is very high growth. When a competition is more about lobbying with the government, but in terms of their survival, if there is a high growth, if people are earning well, the India's per capita income is rising, consumption is rising, there is no survival issue. Market is still unsaturated. I think you are muted, Chavi.
Yeah. Thanks for unmuting me. Thank you, Arpita, for a very valid answer. I would just request Mr. Rajgopalan that please don't doubt about the potential India has. We are shoppers. Many years back, and even now, when we go abroad in UK, the Harrods store, the maximum number of sales happened by Indians who were traveling to UK. So be rest assured, we are a country of shoppers, and we like to shop. So there will be no dearth of direct selling entities, and there will be no dearth of direct sellers. This I will also say from the opinion that long time back there were also doubt about big malls coming in, and they were doubtful what will happen to our kirana store. All of us sitting together are still equally dependent on the kirana store, which we were 20 years back. The difference is that our kirana store has become more savvy. He's giving us 30 days credit, then he's taking a credit card, and he's also delivering at home, which no Walmart or no other organization can do. So stay happy and be content that there is a lot of scope in India, and that there's a lot of future. All the points which were given by all of you will be taken up, and Rajodaji, we would like to have your support in taking this forward. Look forward. In fact, it is because of this forum that I have started doing a lot of things, because there was a request that there should be some interaction with the direct sellers. So every Wednesday through Facebook and YouTube, I am doing a lot of sessions for the information. So all the people who are joining, you are free to join on every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and I do a lot of interaction over there, whether there are questions, because this is a limited forum. So we will end it right now, but you're most welcome to write to our ASSOCHAM and we will answer. All the panelists are there to support every question which we get. So over to you, Mr. Rajora, and thank you, panelists, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone. On behalf of ASSOCHAM, I convey my grateful thanks to our chief guest, Mr. Anil Bhaguna. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And I also thank Dr. Pita Mukherjee, Madam Chavi Ahmed, Mr. Naresh Dikshit, Manish Gupta ji, and Mr. Pramod Manda. Of course, Vijay has left, and grateful thanks to everyone. On behalf of ASSOCHAM, again, thank you everyone, all the participants. Thanks.
And we are also thankful to our supporters, Vestige India Limited, for supporting that we are able to continue to do these webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.